My name is Michael Harrison. I'm an investigative journalist for the Denver Post, and what I'm about to tell you happened in the fall of 2023 in a small town in Colorado called Serpent Hollow, a town that officially never existed. I received an anonymous call on a rainy Tuesday. The trembling voice of an elderly woman whispered about snakes falling from the sky and houses swallowed by the earth. Normally, I would have ignored such calls, but something in her voice deeply unsettled me. "They took everyone," she cried. "Serpent Hollow is gone from the map, literally. Search for it on Google Maps. The town isn't there anymore." Curious, I did exactly that. She was right. There was no trace of Serpent Hollow anywhere, not even in state government records. It was as if 3,147 people had simply vanished. 3 days later, I was driving along Highway 285, following the directions the woman had given me before the line went dead. The GPS stopped working precisely at mile 47, where an exit for the town was supposed to be. Instead, I found only a dirt road winding through giant pine trees. I drove for 2 hours before spotting the first houses. Serpent Hollow existed, but it was different. The streets were covered with a greenish fog that smelled of sulfur and rotten meat. Abandoned cars blocked the avenues, their doors wide open like mouths screaming in silence. I stopped on Main Street and got out of the car. The silence was absolute. No birds, no insects, no wind. Only my footsteps echoing on the cracked asphalt. That's when I noticed the tracks, twisting marks on the ground, as if hundreds of thick ropes had been dragged through the town. But these ropes were over 2 meters wide. Scales were scattered across the asphalt, some the size of my hand, shining with a metallic green hue that hurt my eyes. I walked up to the Serpent Hollow diner, where a neon sign flickered intermittently. BSTP, A Intuan, best pie in town. The front door was completely destroyed, as if something gigantic had forced its way inside. Inside, the tables were overturned, broken dishes covered the floor, and there were bite marks on the wooden chairs. Circular bites from something with fangs the size of kitchen knives. On the back wall, someone had scrawled in blood, "They came from below." That's when I heard the first hiss. The sound came from the diner's basement, a tomb-like hypnotic hiss that made my bones vibrate. I descended the wooden stairs, each step groaning under my weight. The temperature dropped slightly. My breath formed clouds in the air. In the basement, I found Sarah Kellerman. She was curled up in a corner, clutching an old shotgun. Her gray hair was tangled, her eyes bloodshot, her clothes torn. When she saw me, she aimed the gun straight at my chest. "You're not one of them," she whispered, slowly lowering the shotgun. Not yet. Sarah had been Serpent Hollow's librarian for 32 years, the woman who had called me. She told me the most terrifying story I had ever heard. "It started 3 weeks ago," she said, trembling. "Strange earthquakes. They weren't normal earthquakes. The ground pulsed like something gigantic was breathing beneath the town. The animals fled first. All of them. Dogs, cats, birds. Even the spiders disappeared." She showed me a journal she kept. The pages were stained with blood and tears, but I managed to read, "Day 1, cracks appear on Main Street. An explosive smell comes from the cracks. Day 3, Tommy Jenkins finds a dead snake in the yard. It's 4 meters long and has a head the size of a bucket. Day 5, the cracks widen. We can see movement below. Something is moving in the dark. Day 7, the first person disappears. Mary Patterson went to the basement for preserves and never came back. Day 10, they start to come out at night." "They?" I asked. Sarah closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. "Giant snakes, but they're not natural. They have red, extended eyes and make a sound that penetrates your mind. When you hear that sound, you want to follow them. You want to surrender." She told me the creatures emerged from the cracks every night hunting. They didn't eat people immediately. First, they hypnotized them with that supernatural hiss, then dragged them into the depths through the cracks in the ground. "The whole town was seduced," Sarah cried. "I saw my neighbors walk willingly toward the cracks, smiling, as if they were going to a party. Even the children. God, the children were the first to obey." Sarah begged me to leave before nightfall, but I wanted to see the evidence first. As a journalist, I knew no one would believe this story without concrete proof. As the sun set behind the mountains, Serpent Hollow transformed. The greenish fog grew denser, and the hissing began to echo in every direction. It wasn't a sound, it was a symphony of serpentine voices, each at a different frequency, creating a hypnotic, terrifying melody. "They're waking up," Sarah whispered, gripping my arm hard enough to leave marks. The cracks began to glow with a pale green light, and then they emerged. The first snake I saw was at least 15 meters long and as thick as a car. Its skin was black as oil, but it shimmered with green reflections that seemed to move independently. Its red eyes were the size of dinner plates, and they burned like embers in the dark. But the most terrifying thing was its intelligence. This creature looked directly into my eyes and smiled. A giant snake gave me a smile that froze my blood. Others began to emerge from the smaller cracks, dozens of them. Some were smaller, the size of normal pythons, but all of them had those piercing red eyes and that impossible smile. The collective hissing intensified, and I felt my mind start to slip. It was as if invisible fingers were probing my brain, trying to reprogram me. A sweet, seductive voice whispered in my head, "Come, join us. It's so easy, so peaceful." I started walking toward the larger snake. I couldn't stop. My feet moved on their own, and a feeling of ecstasy took over my body. It was like being in love and dying at the same time. Sarah saved me. She fired a shot into the air, and the blast broke the hypnotic trance. I snapped back to reality just as a giant snake opened its horrible mouth, revealing rows of fangs the size of swords. "Run!" Sarah screamed. We ran down Main Street as the snakes chased us. They moved impossibly, gliding through the air as if gravity didn't exist. Some dove into the asphalt as if it were water, emerging meters ahead to try and intercept us. The collective hissing became deafening. Blood filled my ears, and hallucinations began to invade my mind. I saw all the residents of Serpent Hollow walking willingly toward the cracks, smiling beatifically as they were swallowed by the darkness. We reached my car, but the keys were trembling so much in my hand that I couldn't put them in the ignition. Sarah had to drive. As we left the town, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw something that haunts me to this day. The snakes were no longer chasing us. Instead, we were dancing. Hundreds of them, intertwined in a cosmic dance around the extended cracks. And at the center of the dance, I saw human figures participating in the ceremony. The missing residents of Serpent Hollow were alive, but transformed. Their eyes glowed with the same red light as the snakes, and they hissed in harmony with the creatures. They were no longer human. They were something new, something hybrid. We drove for 5 hours non-stop. When we finally stopped at a gas station in Denver, Sarah turned to me and said, "They will spread. Serpent Hollow was just the beginning. They're waking up in other towns too." The next morning, Sarah disappeared from the motel. She left no trace, as if she had never existed. I returned to Serpent Hollow 2 weeks later with a full investigative team. We found nothing. No town, no cracks, no snakes. Only a huge crater where the town should have been, as if something had sucked everything into the depths of the earth. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear that hiss in my dreams, and I know they're down there, waiting, growing, planning. The invasion hasn't ended. It has only just begun, and now they know I know.